The Penance Film Festival is happening February 22nd to 25th. It is a celebration of international films. It is a brilliant film festival in its 7th season. Prior to the COVID pandemic, it was the fastest growing film festival in the world. What is my affiliation with Pendance? What are they paying me to say this? Well, I am Pendance. I'm the festival director and founder of Pendance. It is my baby. And if you love great films, if you have a film lover in your life, this is a worthwhile event for you, happening in downtown Toronto at the Carlton Cinema. February 22nd to 25th. Make sure to check us out. Link is in the description below for tickets and passes. Tickets will go on sale soon. Passes are already on sale. Let's get to it. Well. The Toronto Raptors win barely. And there's a lot to dissect from this game. And there's a lot of good stuff that happened tonight. And I think that it was Christian, I'm going to ask you, please, not disparage people with Asperger's. Just an FYI, you're listening to somebody with Asperger's, so chill. Okay? I understand. You know, games like this are very interesting because it's a high and low, right? The Toronto Raptors come out in the first half and everything was clicking. The defense looked great. There were 27 deflections in the first half. That was incredible. Everyone is getting involved, right? I think the defense was really anchored in the first half by Jakob specifically, right? And I think Scotty Barnes helped out a lot on the back end of the defense. We saw a block very early. I think Gary Trent Jr. was very instrumental just in terms of applying ball pressure and just forcing the Rockets to be very uncomfortable. I think the Raptors did a hell of a job on Alperen Sengun tonight. It was a really, really gutsy defensive performance, if a little bit incomplete, right? Alperen Sengun, 21 minutes, negative 21. He was 2 for 5 from the field. Really just a really bad game for him overall, right? This is not a traditional game for Alperen Sengun. Like, you don't hold... I mean, if I went through his entire game log, I'm pretty sure this might be his worst game of the season. I don't think I've seen a game like this from him ever, like in the last 2 seasons. Like, he's a guy who averages over 20 points per game. He's averaging like 24 points per game against Toronto this year. He's averaging 21 and a half and 11 and 6 over his last 10. And for him to be like 4 points, 5 rebounds, really, really incredible. Just take a look at Alperen Sengun's game log, because I don't think enough is going to be made tonight about, like, look at it. When's the last time he scored single digits? 9 points against Memphis. Okay. When's the last time? Though that's it. He's been double digits. He's unstoppable. He killed the Raptors the last time they played him. He was a really big part of the paint points for the Rockets the last time they played him. And just a really impressive defensive performance from Jakob, really giving you, like, I mean, we're doing a poll right now on the thing. I hope Jakob is winning that poll handily, right? There's a poll right now. Who was the player of the game? I'm curious who your second player would be. So we're going to end that poll. Jakob wins that poll. 59% of you thought Jakob was the player of the game. Apparently 3% of you thought Bruce Brown was the player of the game. I think Bruce Brown played incredibly well. He played really well. Raphael, not sure which, saying Grady's defense was great tonight. Yes, sir. It was great. In terms of who's winning the chain, I think it should easily be Jakob Like, I don't, yeah, incredible. Overall, I think the Raptors had a really, really solid showing defensively, and offensively, it was a little bit of a mixed bag, right? They had a really good stretch to start the game. Looked like they were on the verge of a blowout. I knew better. It's not going to be a blowout. There's no way. They luck out a little bit. Cam Whitmore was really the Rockets' best player through the first half. He goes out with an ankle injury, and he doesn't finish out the game. They get a ton of really, really good minutes from Jeff Green, Aaron Holiday. I think overall, Jalen Green and Alperen Sengun, 2 guys who I think Scotty did a lot of good work on, Scotty and Jakob, they really struggled tonight. Jalen Green had 2 points. Alperen Sengun had 4 points. This is not right. Wait, what? This can't be right. That's impossible. What's going on here? This box score is incorrect. Alperen Şengün didn't have 4 points, did he? There we go. 7 points. Okay, there we go. I had to refresh that. What the hell was that? Okay, ESPN. I was like, there's no way. Okay, so Jalen Green had 7 points. Alperen Şengün had 7 points, not 4 points, but still a very, very bad game for him. Still single digits, 7.7 rebounds. Again, a massive, massive aberration from what he usually does. I apologize to anyone who has said 4 points. I was like, that seems low. Okay. Amen Thompson, I thought he was pretty good tonight. He only scored 8 points, but overall, I think he was good. And yeah, they got a really big performance from Cam Whitmore off the bench, 17 points. Again, most of it in the first half. As I mentioned, he goes out with the ankle sprain. Jeff Green was instrumental. I think Dylan Brooks was pretty tough down the stretch. He hit 4 of 5 threes, goes off for 20 points. He and RJ, a lot of Canadian. Someone saying goodbye, top 6 pick. Yup. Yeah. Crazy Whitmore tried junking on Scotty and hurt his cooked knees. I don't like to take pleasure in injuries at all, but I think it may have been on that play. Scotty tried to take the charge, took a very weak sort of charge there, and ultimately Cam Whitmore goes down and doesn't really come back. Yeah, the Rockets beasted in the fourth quarter, 33-19. The Raptors really have issues closing out games. I think there was a lot of collapses down late. It's the Rockets switching defensive scheme in the second half. Also, like they did a little bit of in the second quarter that I think really scrambled up the Raptors in terms of just understanding what to do and where to be, how to cut, etc. There was a lot of random offense for the Raptors tonight where guys are just kind of like passing it around. There was a little bit of disorganization. A lot of Scotty on-ball reps tonight. Some of them looked good. Some of them looked really good. He was pretty decent, but some of them didn't look so great. Some of them where he didn't get deep enough into the paint. Same thing with Immanuel Quickley, right? I think Immanuel Quickley had some really, really positive moments tonight. 9 for 19, one of his more offensively assertive games. He had 19 attempts from him. He was bombing away from 3. He was getting into the paint. He was, really, hitting those floater range shots. Shredding the defense, getting into the middle. I thought it was very, very positive night for him. Same thing with Jonte Porter. He hits his he hits 1 3, but overall, even though Kelly Olynyk and Ochai Agbaji were available tonight, they don't get minutes. Another guy who didn't get minutes tonight, not too surprising at this point, is Chris Boucher. Yikes. We will definitely talk about it at some point, about what the Raptors can do going forward. I think Blake Murphy had an excellent article today, as he has gotten used to, basically breaking down what the Raptors cap sheet looks like going forward. And yeah, I think it was overall, cannot talk about this game without talking about RJ Barrett. I thought he was really, really, really good. Apart from I think getting blocked once or whatever, or twice, stripped on a couple of drives. I thought he was really solid. He started out this game, I think he was like 6 for 7 or close to 7 for 7. Like he was really strong to start out the game. He got into the teeth of the defense. He was like, and his playmaking tonight was like the most impressive part of it. That pass to Jakob, there was like a moment where I was like, I don't know, he had that. That's great. This is really, really positive. Because you're building around youth. Gary Trent Jr. really cold shooting night, but overall, I think positive. Yeah, you cannot live and die by whether or not the shots went in. On most nights, those shots are going to go in. He has been close to a 50% 3-point shooter as a starter. Tonight, shot 25%. Not great. Hey, thanks a lot for the super chat here. Did you feel like part of the improved effort and play tonight had to do with the trade deadline passing and players who remain knowing that they're likely to be with the team at least for this year? I think that's most of it, man. I think that's 80% of it. I think 80% of it is that. 10% of it is probably just, the motivation of, hey, like this is our last chance. Maybe 5% of it is, whenever you have new teammates, you kind of want to show them what you're made of. There's competitive bravado about it. And I think 5% of it is just Dennis Schroeder's off our team, Maybe that's me projecting. I don't know. I don't know if the players on the team didn't like Dennis the way the way I didn't like Dennis, but yeah, Dennis being gone is just a good thing. Honeymoon phase. Yeah. I mean, look, the Raptors won their first few games with RJ and Emmanuel quickly, I think last time too. So yeah. Anyways, thank you so much for the super chat. I really appreciate it. Yeah, and look, like the Raptors don't have a lot of time to hang their head or, whatever, wonder what could have happened. This is going to be a very useful bit of tape for them to look at in terms of what they did wrong down the stretch, which almost allowed, the Rockets to get back into this. We're about 10 minutes into this live and we haven't talked about Scotty Barnes. Really mixed game for him, where there was like a couple of really, really, really great things that he did, and then a bunch of like really not great things that he did. So let's talk about both. Let's be completely objective and fair. So objectively and fairly, Scotty had a pretty decent defensive game. Let's say like he was 80% complete defensively. There's still a lot of times when, he's boxing out and putting his, body on a guy, but he doesn't want to jump for the rebound right now. A lot of that burst that we saw earlier in the season is just gone. His legs are dead. And if you look at it, he's leading the entire league in distance traveled right now. Entire league. Whole league. No one has traveled more on the court than Scotty Barnes. DeMontis Sabonis is, I think, like third or fourth or something like that. Pascal's on the list as well. Basically, he's been everywhere and he's gassed. Legs are gassed. I just don't he doesn't have burst. Like he's missing point blank layups right now. Not nearly as bad as the point blank layup that nearly cost the Raptors the game where Bruce Brown misses an open layup. But, there's a lot of like, I don't know. What's going on? Yeah, Scotty needs to rest. I agree. I really do. And, it's fortunate that he made the All-Star team, but also a bit of unfortunate, that where other players are going to have that week off, he's not. He was in the gym like every single day this offseason. And clearly, he's taken some of that, whereas he came into the season very juiced up and very energized. I think they're going to have to cut back his minutes at some point. I know that you need him. He's a really high IQ player. He's obviously a great playmaker. He's probably your best defender right now, not named Jakob. If not, he is like the best defender on your team in terms of point of attack stuff. But maybe, now that Grady's been a little bit more competent, you get Ochai Agbaji, you get Jordan Nwora, who didn't have such a great game tonight. But, overall, like you've got some depth now where maybe, just maybe, you can start pulling his minutes back from 34, 35 to like 30, 32. Like he doesn't give a shit about the numbers. So like maybe that extra 5 minutes, 3-4 games will help. That being said, if tonight's game had gone into overtime, he would have played every minute of overtime, gone 40 minutes, and then had to go and play a back-to-back tomorrow. You're kind of asking for an injury at this point with him, and I really hope that isn't the case. But I've seen this happen with him a couple of times where, he just loses his legs. And, he can probably look at it and say, damn, I wish I was in better shape. But really, I think the Raptors have to look at it too and say, 22 or not, he's bumping. He's bumping with centers. He's, busting his tail on defense. He's playing crazy minutes. I think he just needs a week. I think he needs a week off in the worst way. I think just get those legs back, get those knees back, and you'll get that jumper back too. I think too often when he's playing point, so much of the advantages that we were seeing earlier in the season where things were going pretty well for him, unfortunately, it's not going as well for him right now because defenses are sagging off. They're sagging off because he won't shoot. And when he does shoot, he's missing. So, like, the gap between him being a 38, 39% three-point shooter as he's been for most of the season and being like a 25 to 30% shooter as he's been more or less lately is a very big gap in terms of how much space you actually have to attack defenses. If they're going to hug up on you on the three-point line, he can get past his man. If they're going to give you 4 feet of space, he can't get past his man. That's the issue, right? So they're going to turn you into a jump shooter just like they did last year, just like they did the year before, and you're going to have to operate in the post. And right now he got fouled. I think he got fouled a couple of times tonight where he didn't get the call, so probably should have gone to the line. But let's talk about the positives. Late down the stretch, he got a ton of rebounds, offensive rebounds, extra touches, deflections, etc. Right? I thought that was really great. In the fourth quarter, like right towards the end of the game, Dylan Brooks getting like I think it was Jeff Green getting wide open for a three. That was not good. Was it Dylan Brooks or Jeff Green? And then Dylan Brooks does get open for a three. He hits it. I think Jeff Green got open for a three. He didn't hit it. And then, of course, 2 seconds to go. The Raptors have a calamity of errors, just like a group of errors where Scotty's going for a rebound. It gets tipped off his hand. They keep the ball. They challenge, etc. And then, I think there was an offensive rebound, if I remember correctly. We'll look at this. Let's look at the play-by-play here. Yeah, so, I mean, like, obviously, Jeff Green doesn't make that final shot, which is a three, but it was not great. So the final play, let me make this bigger. So, the Rockets got an offensive rebound right at the end, and Jeff Green misses a three. Before that, it was Amen Thompson getting an offensive rebound off of the Aaron Holiday miss. I thought he traveled, but allegedly they call it. RJ Barrett hitting his free throws down the stretch is huge. He is very hit or miss from the line. Sometimes he goes through an entire month where he's going to shoot 60%. Some nights, some months he's going to go 80%. I don't know. So, yeah. But yeah, I think Scotty was really instrumental down the stretch. I also think like his shot making and all the bunnies that he missed, I think it has a lot to do with his legs. But overall, very impressive win for the Raptors. You could say definitely, the Rockets were undermanned. They're not a good team on the road. I believe they've won 5 games all season on the road. There's not a good road team, and you let them right back into it. But a win is a win, and if you're trying to make the play-in, you're going to have to take this as a lump. It doesn't feel like a win because, you gave up this huge lead that you had. Let's take a look at the team stats. They are pretty telling and pretty impressive overall. Give me 1 second. Scroll up. So in terms of the team stats, the Toronto Raptors shoot marginally worse than the Rockets, just partially because their defense kind of collapses late. They shoot considerably worse from three, also because the Rockets get on a heat streak like late. They shoot really well from the line. Earlier in the season, it was pretty common to see the Raptors shooting like 60%, 52%, 55% from the line. You lost a lot of games that way. A lot of those games where you shot 56, 57% from the line, you were losing those games by like 4 or 5 points. So really it came down to free throws. And tonight the Raptors made their free throws. They go 17 for 19. Big credit to RJ Barrett for making his free throws. Big credit to Scotty Barnes for making his free throws. Emmanuel quickly missed one late, which was like, yikes. That's one of your better free throw shooters. The Raptors get out rebounded. How do they win this game? It's a really good question. It's mainly just blocks, steals, turnovers, etc. Right? The Rockets have 22 turnovers. The Raptors have 12 turnovers, and that's it. And you know what? It wasn't a lot of like unforced turnovers. It's not like the Rockets just walked out of bounds. It was just a lot of pressure from the Raptors defense and, guys getting in the passing lane, etc. And yeah, I think Jakob was a really big part of shoring up the back line of the defense. And I think he absolutely deserves player of the game. 22 points was the largest lead for the Raptors, and 3 points was the largest lead for the Rockets. They did not lead late. It was a bend but don't break situation. The Raptors pretty much did not trail the entire game other than like in the first quarter. So take a look here. Yeah, there you go. So the Raptors pretty much held the lead. And then, sort of the tail of the tape, second quarter starts, and then that unit with Scotty, Grady, I think Nawara on the court. That team just surrenders the lead for a moment. It was like a blip, and then they never look back. And then boom, right in the fourth quarter, right towards the end, the Rockets surge, and they almost stole this game. And again, if you're the Toronto Raptors, if you're Darko Rajakovic, you need to talk to your team about closing out quarters and closing out games, because honestly, this showed a lot of immaturity. Now, hey, the Rockets were missing Fred VanVleet. You were missing Kelly Olynyk. And yeah, jury's out on which one of those players is probably going to be more important long term. Okay, I'm being a hater. Obviously, Fred VanVleet's a better player than Kelly Olynyk. I'm just throwing shade because I'm just so pissed off at the freaking broadcast crew the entire fucking night. They're talking about Fred. They're talking about Fred the whole time, and it's just like, yo, there's a game happening. Scotty just had a huge block. RJ had a huge, play. What are we doing here, right? And these two numbnuts are just like, oh, but Fred, look at the bling. Look at the bling on Fred. And it's just like, bro, come on, man. Build a statue? build a statue for Fred VanVleet, a video tribute for Dennis Schroeder. What are we doing here? Jeez. They were glazing heavy indeed. Jeez. Anyways, the call-in link is open. If you want to call in. Let's talk about it. Overall, I think this game is a good learning experience for this team. Obviously, I've watched this team bend and break plenty of times late. The fact that they didn't lose this game, got to be honest, a little bit of it was luck. A little bit of it was luck and shooting variance. But yeah, I don't mind Fred getting his flowers. I don't care. I mean, honestly, like, what is this? Like, he was a role player and a very instrumental role player on a championship team. Congratulations. That was 5 years ago. He did us dirty last year, man. He did, man. He totally put this team behind himself. And I'm sorry, you don't get to do that. Like, guys got booed for a lot less than that. And the fact that you're talking about building a statue is fucking crazy. You're talking about building Fred VanVleet a statue when you can't even retire Vince Carter's jersey? Get the hell out of here, man. The video, the Steve. Yeah, that was weird. Anyways, I'm looking forward to this team just having generally better vibes. Raiden saying, I'm new to this. How do you make calls? So you go to the description. Here, I'll show you. Let me pull up my screen. Yes, I did. I think it was actually, I don't think it was that at all. I think it was Matt Devlin asking if he was going to get a video tribute. Okay. Hang on 1 second. Let's pull this up. Share my screen.
Make your Canadian small business stand out with adductor.
Yay, YouTube revenue.
A domain. It's easy with GoDaddy's domain search.
All right.
All this at an affordable price. Come on, Canada. Get your .ca before it's gone.
Okay, so basically, you go right here. All right.
All
see
this
this link
at an affordable price. Come on, Canada. Get your .ca
right there. So first of all, that is to get the Penance. Little plug for Penance. Penance Film Festival coming up in less than 2 weeks. Really awesome film festival. And by the way, there's some free workshops now. There's 2 workshops if you've ever been somebody who's really interested in film and someone who wants to make your own films, or someone who's very deeply curious about film. There's a couple of free workshops in addition to the screenings. But in terms of how to call in, I appreciate the shameless plug right there. You just click this link right here, and then it opens up to, I feel like some people would call in. They don't know how to call in. So yeah, see, it goes like this. And then you end up on this screen. Wait, why does it not show? Huh? Oh, here we go. So you end up on this screen. Which is so weird. And you enter the studio, which is also so weird. And now I am a guest. And the world has ended. That's so weird. That was funny. Okay. The whole world just ended. Like, the world imploded on itself as I was about to have a conversation with myself. Anyways, Antoine, yeah, call in, man. Like, whatever. Stop like ducking in the comments. Yeah, so that's basically how you call in. If you got something to say, definitely. I don't have a hell of a lot more else to say about this, other than let's talk about the cap sheet. We can definitely talk about the cap sheet. So oh, okay, we got a caller. Nevea Nicholas, what's up?
Nothing much, Rob. First time caller, man. I was at the game tonight.
You were there. Nice.
Oh yeah. It was quite exciting. Good to see the new blood sitting on the bench. Good to see Freddie back in the seats there, the Raptor land. I know everybody was enjoying seeing him. There's quite an ovation for him, man.
He got a big ovation.
Oh yeah. He got a huge ovation, man. It was very nice to see. It's very nice to see.
Okay.
Mm-hmm. So just wanted to call in. Actually, it's my first time. Just wanted to say hello to the whole Raptor Nation out there, and just also to you. Good luck with the whole Penance Film Festival coming up in the next couple weeks. Hope everything
Thanks,
works out.
Thanks. I appreciate it, man. Any observations tonight in terms of on the bench? Like, I don't know if you had a good vantage point of it, but obviously Kelly Olynyk's on the bench now. You got Ochai Agbaji getting up. He was pretty rowdy, right? He was like really excited about Grady hitting his threes. He was like excited about the big blocks. Like,
Yeah.
any good feel on those guys in timeouts? They seem engaged.
You know what? I was actually on the opposition side, just maybe 12 rows up, right? So my vantage point was strictly on Freddie, Dylan, and the entire Houston bench. But on a whole, though, I could see those guys. It's glad to have them there. I was checking out some of Ochai's highlights from Kansas today. So excited to see what he's going to be bringing to the Raptorland pretty soon.
Do you think this team can make the playoffs?
Rob, to tell the truth, my expectation after losing OG and Pascal was I knew how the situation was looking. You know what? As long as they're trying, as long as they're meshing, as long as the new guys are getting the opportunity to play and to collaborate with each other, I think that's the best thing for them right now. Whether they make it in or not, I don't think that truly matters at the moment. I just want to see them gel. I want to see them work with Scotty, and I want to see Bird and quickly, all get on the same page and see what they can do for next year.
I think there's like a lot of value to be gleaned, obviously, from making the playoffs or the play-in, having those high leverage moments, seeing, what do you get from RJ? What do you get from Emmanuel quickly? What do you get from potentially Scotty Barnes? I think, though, you're right that the chasing of that could show you a lot too, right? Like putting you guys in like high leverage games. Like the only thing I don't want to see are 40-point blowouts. I want to see close wins, close losses, right? Like the rest of the way, I want to see them get into the game, stay in the game, learn how to win. Because obviously, like, closing out quarters, closing out games like this, it feels like sometimes teams get up like 20 points and they're just trying to get out of the gym with the win, and that's usually going to leave the door open for the other team to make a comeback.
Well, this is the new NBA, right? But 20-point lead is never safe, as we know. I had my son with me, and he's like, "Hey, Dad, we're up 20-something. How did we end up cutting it so close?" I said, "Son, listen, it's a new NBA, man. Everybody's shooting threes, and it just takes a few defensive laps, and the game is right back in it, right?" So, as you mentioned, just seeing these guys in that high leverage situation and working together is just something to look forward to. I'm not going to put too much emphasis on the standings for this year, but most definitely I'm looking forward to next year and to see how they start meshing together for sure.
I completely agree. What have you seen from RJ and Emmanuel quickly, and just in general? Like, how do you see this team going forward? Like, let's just say this way: next year we start out training camp, and RJ, IQ, and Scotty are your top three players. Are you expecting this team to be good if those three are your top three players? Do you need somebody who's at least better than RJ and IQ to get in there?
You know what RJ brings that toughness going to the rim. His 3-point shooting is kind of shaky. Watching quickly and how he operates sometimes, you truly don't see that he's scoring all these points, because tonight he had 20 something points, north 25. Of 25, and being in the arena and seeing it, I had to look up on the scoreboard to say, man, he's actually at 20 something points right now. So I think on a whole it's good to have these guys, and we'll see what the future holds. It's definitely hard to predict. I'm truly hoping that Scotty takes that step and starts showing a little bit more aggression, because tonight I believe he finished with 13 points, right? A double nonetheless, but I want to see these aggressive moments from Scotty a little bit more of an emphasis on taking over certain periods of the game where the score is slipping or whatever the case may be. I know he's somewhat conserving his energy for the fourth quarter. Typically, is what we hear and see due to the stats that he's producing. But it would be good to see him, take advantage of certain matchups and situations a little bit more. So if we see that jump from Scotty next year, Emmanuel and Barrett continue to do what they're doing, I think they'll be fine. I think they'll be fine
like
as long as
at the end, like, if you have a player who can draw a double, right, then he's doing his job, right? So the thing is, like, I think like most of us, we've come accustomed to Pascal Siakam or Vince Carter, Kawhi Leonard. Like, we have like a prototypical first option, and they all kind of have DeMar DeRozan. They've all had this kind of similar way about them, which is 20 points staple, 20 point, 20 point, 20 point, 20 point. And so when one of those guys had like 14 points, 13 points, we just assume, damn, that's a bad game, right? And I think every star player, if you look at their box score, unless you're talking like the mega scores, like if you're talking about star players on like deeper teams, typically you'll see occasionally 9 points, 12 points, 14 points. I think it happens to be that with Scotty, you're looking for that step so much. Like most of us are looking for that 30-point pop every night, that when he scores 13, it just sticks out so much, right? Even in a win. Now, if the team had lost tonight, the vitriol that he would have faced. Oh my God,
I'm not going to be
too
hard on. I'm not going to be too hard on him, Rob, to tell the honest truth. I truly understand what he brings to this team in terms of just always being present, and giving that defensive effort as much as he can at times, right? I'm definitely not putting too much emphasis on scoring, but just showing that presence a little bit more. I know that he does draw those doubles. He does make the right plays out of those doubles as well, which is good to see. Some of those bunnies, sometimes it's just not falling for him, right? And I think that's it more than anything else this year from what I've been seeing, right? But the guy's going in there, he's trying his best, he's getting fouled left, right, and center, Rob, to tell the honest truth, but to no avail. He's not getting majority of the calls that he's supposed to be getting. But
I mean, we saw a lot of the 20 points, 25 points. We saw a lot of that earlier in the season when his legs had a little bit more juice. He had a little bit more talent around him. His defensive load wasn't nearly as high when OG was here. But since OG left and he became like that primary perimeter defender guy, we haven't seen the same Scotty Barnes. His legs are just dead. And, he talked about it in the post in the exit interviews last year about like, I need to get into better shape if I'm gonna play the way I want to play. And a lot of people interpret that to being that he's not in good shape. It's not that he's not in good shape. No. It's just in order to be in the type of shape where you're going to be leading the league at 6'9", 245, you're going to be leading the league in distance traveled. You better be like in the best shape in the NBA. You know what I mean? Like it's got to be. And despite what people think, like a lot of people say, well, he's 22. See, people don't talk about him being 22 the way they talk about Grady being 20, if you get what I mean, because he looks so grown as a man. He's got the big muscles, he's tall. They don't talk about it, but people don't realize that athletes are always in better condition and in better shape at 25 than they are at 22, almost all of them, right? You're going to be much better off. You're going to be stronger, you're going to be faster. Again, it's not always. Some guys, they peak a little bit earlier. Some guys peak a little bit later. But the average athlete peaks 24 to 25 athletically, physically. So, putting that much load, I mean, they talk about the rookie wall. If every 21-year-old was an NBA athlete, then what the hell is the rookie wall, right? Like, why do athletes hit the rookie wall? He's going to have to take his conditioning. Like, he's going to have to do wind sprints in in Denver or some shit like that. He's going to have to be doing like some next level cardio to get to the point where he's not going to be gassed.
Workout regimen.
Oh yeah, he's going to have to be like sitting up on a Russian mountain. Like how you remember how Balboa goes up there and he's like Drago, right? He's going to have to go out to the mountain and be like Darko, And you're climbing up the mountains. Adrian, yo, Adrian, I got this. So yeah, say Rocky, Scotty's gonna have to hit that next level because we've seen it a couple times. Every year he's had this kind of dip in production around the winter time.
Mhm.
and then he peaks up again. He usually comes back at some point later in the season,
Mhm.
but there's usually like a lull. He's never been an all-star before. He won't get that break that he usually does, but hey, we'll see.
Listen, congratulations to him. I really wish he had that break, to tell the honest truth, Rob, but unfortunately, he's going to have to be representing Toronto Raptors this All-Star weekend. So I'm definitely
I
looking
think
forward
he's
to that.
happy. I think overall he's happy. The first one is always, maybe if this was the 13th one, we'd be like, maybe he's just fake an injury. But the first one's always special.
Yeah.
And I'm sure energy comes in different ways. It's not going to be as much of a grind. Like it's going to be more of an emotional grind. But
Mhm.
he's such an energy absorber that just being around all those great players, seeing them, playing with them, he
Yep.
might just learn a few things that he doesn't know about. So that's going to be really cool. And he's going to be like, he's going to be introduced as an all-star. Like what a big moment, And
Yeah.
sometimes you can use the let's say like the juice of that moment. You can use it as momentum
Mhm.
to fuel the next half. And who knows? Maybe he comes back and he's just like reinvigorated, right? It's a bit of a vacation, regardless of how you look at it. It's not the day-to-day grind. And I think like when it comes down to fatigue, at least part of it is emotional.
Mhm.
You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like the emotional fatigue of losing all these teammates, new teammates every week, dealing with this,
Yeah.
dealing with that. You're probably spending a little bit more time up worrying about these things. So, yeah, I just hope like he can just see the opportunity that's presenting itself right now, because I really do think they can make a push for the play-in, and whether they make it or not doesn't really matter to me. What matters is the pursuit. So, yeah.
Absolutely. The pursuit and the togetherness, and just seeing them gel together, man. As I
Yeah.
said prior, but
Thanks a lot
but
for
yeah,
calling in, man. I really appreciate it. You got a comment that said he's the nicest caller ever. Yeah. Appreciate it, man.
All right, no problem, Rob. Thank you very much
Cheers, man.
for doing everything, man. And,
Yeah. Cheers.
really enjoy the channel. Bye.
Yeah. Call back anytime. See ya. Okay. I want to take a little bit of a detour. We'll get to Raven and then Lane. I want to take a little bit of a detour here to just listen to Ochai Agbaji and Kelly Olynyk. Not a very long interview. Don't worry. But it's
roster looking a lot different than it did on opening night. Ahead of the trade deadline, the Raptors made multiple moves, bringing in 7 new faces, and we heard from the newest players, Kelly Olynyk and Ochai Agbaji.
What's the last 24 hours been like for you?
Yeah, I mean, it's been a whirlwind. It's crazy. Obviously, the trade deadline is hectic for everybody, but there's a lot of activity. My name was in a lot of a lot of places, and Toronto kind of came out of nowhere.
Kelly Olynyk grew up in Toronto until he was in grade 7, then they moved to BC. Well, there's that initial shock of being traded from an NBA team to another team. Olynyk went from the Utah Jazz to now getting to play for the team he grew up watching and listening to.
It's really cool to look back at your life and everything that you've done up till now, and how monumental the Raptors have been in my life. My mom was a scorekeeper here. My dad was an associate coach here for a year. Just being in the driveway, pretending you're a Raptor growing up. So it's like to be, putting on this jersey and these shirts and hats and stuff. It's like, yeah, it's something that you can't even put into words.
Also new to the team is Olynyk's fellow Utah Jazz teammate, Ochai Agbaji. He didn't grow up in Canada. He's from Wisconsin, but says he feels at home here in Toronto because he knows a lot of people from the franchise, including Masai Ujiri, who called him about the trade news.
He was basically saying, you're with family now. I had known him for, I think, five or 6 years now, and he's really close with my dad. So they grew up together, and kind of having those relations before being on the team, and knowing him was good. So now being here, and yeah, he's right. It's like being with family.
A little rest for the Wicked. The Raptors back in action on Saturday when they host the Cleveland Cavaliers. For City News, I'm Lindsay Dunn.
all right. Let's get to Raven. First time caller here. Raven, what's going on?
What's up, Rob? How you doing today?
I'm good. I want to say thank you to Ken Bu and a happy Chinese New Year to you, sir. I'm not going to try and say it in Chinese because I'm pretty sure I would butcher it, but happy Chinese New Year. Happy New Lunar Chinese Year. Yeah.
Happy New Year.
Yeah, I'm not Chinese, but Happy New Year to them. Raven, how are you doing? Raven
Not bad.
Outclaw Nas. Okay, cool.
Yeah. Not bad. And yourself?
I'm good. We won, which is
We
great.
won? Yeah, it was great.
The Atlanta Hawks also won, which sucks, but yes.
To add on to that Kelly Olynyk interview, he
Mhm.
mentioned 590 and Chuck Swirsky. Onions, baby, onions.
Oh man, actually seeing him in the Scarborough Blues uniform was crazy to me. I didn't realize he played for the Blues. That's cool.
Just hearing Chuck Swirsky's name, I haven't heard that name in years. I miss his commentary.
Yeah, he was great. He's definitely one of my favorites. Yep. What do you
I
think?
just called in to say great win today. Honestly, just love watching. I thought like the swag came back in the team, and like I think these next 3 games now are going to be important for the play, and is because it's going to determine like if we're going to actually like make it or not. And we're obviously going to like it's going to matter if like Atlanta and Chicago loses some games as well too, right?
Yeah.
To catch up and all that, because I think we're 4 games or 3.5 games behind Atlanta at this point.
I thought we were 4 games. We're 3.5 now.
Oh, with this win, right? I'm thinking it's 3.5.
But Atlanta won too.
Oh, did they? Okay.
Yep. They won tonight. So I think it's still 4 games. It sucks, but I mean, like, this is the hole we've dug ourselves into. And again, like I did a live earlier today where I was talking about like what the Raptors could do potentially, and I was thinking back, ironically, to the Chuck Swirsky days. I don't know how long you've been a Raptor fan, but I'm assuming a pretty long time. And if you remember that,
Oh, brother, since day one, man.
Day one Raptor fan. That's awesome.
95, bro.
I was not a 95 Raptor fan. I was in New York in 95, but I became a Raptor fan the second we got here in 2001. So I do remember that run in 2002 that they went on with Mo Pete and Antonio Davis, and where they ended up getting to the playoffs and facing the Pistons. And I was like, man.
You remember that shot from Mo Pete, like that buzzer beater?
Which one?
The one, I forget who they were playing. I think they were playing Washington, if I'm not mistaken.
The half-court buzzer beater.
The half-court buzzer beater.
The one where they throw up. Believe it or not, I believe that cost us like a pretty significant lottery odds in something at some point. I can't remember exactly who or what it cost us, but I know that it definitely cost us. It was like a pretty meaningless win too. Yeah. Anyway,
I just remember Sam Mitchell going crazy.
I remember Sam Mitchell going crazy as well. Yeah. Anyways, yeah. So, what do you think about our play-in odds? And do you think the Raptors? And like, what are you expecting? Like, I don't know. What are your thoughts on Kelly Olynyk and Ochai Agbaji? How much do you know about Agbaji, etc.?
Honestly, don't know too much about Agbaji. First off, I wish they actually played today. Like, they were like suited up and all that. Or I don't know if they're resting them for tomorrow's game, and like that was a tactic or not.
I don't know if it's about resting. I think it's more like they just got here, let them observe a little bit, let them, come in and
understand the plays more kind of thing.
Yeah, have a, Kelly Olynyk probably could have helped tonight, but honestly, like he'll probably help more tomorrow, and you'll need them tomorrow too. Facing off against a really good team. And obviously, like, the Raptors do have a dinner from Darko on the line tomorrow. They've won 2 straight. It's pretty impressive. They've won 2 straight. They haven't won 2 straight in a long time. So, they could win 3 straight tomorrow. I think it's going to be tough, though. Like, Cleveland's a really good team right now. They're playing really well. And the Raptors are going to need to, like, dial up to – they're going to have to play significantly above their heads to beat that team.
Yeah, but it could also boost their confidence with beating Cleveland as well.
Oh, if they beat them, no shit, of course. Like it will absolutely, boost their confidence. I'm just saying, in order to beat that team, you're gonna have to play above your head a little bit. Like everyone's gonna have to play crazy defense, 48 minutes, like
locked in, dude. Like the whole game.
Because the talent is not on your side at this point, right? You just don't have the requisite talent to win basketball games. You're gonna have to scrap. You're gonna have to do the Antonio Davis and Mo Pete era thing, where you're just going to have to outwork your opponent and
the little
miss
things.
Some shots.
Yeah.
Exactly. You have to hit your screens a little bit harder. You're going to have to guard a little bit better. You're going to have to go after every loose ball. You're going to have to dive. You're going to have to deflect. Kind of like how they played earlier in the game tonight, like in the first half, like, getting out there and really being the authors of the defense, dictating tempo, dictating the tone and the physicality of the game. It also helps, you don't pick up as many fouls when you start out aggressive. So I think overall, like the Raptors just need to, they need to win the city game, basically, to borrow a term from Jack Armstrong. They need to play the city game, and they need to be like really scrappy, and they need to take the identity of somebody. And good for Jakob. He's made it known that he doesn't want to tank. He doesn't want to be a part of a losing team. And tonight,
Agreed.
He won you the game tonight.
Mm-hmm.
Straight
and
up.
Bruce Brown played really well today too.
Bruce Brown played really well. Yes, I agree. Still,
besides that layup, but
jeez, yeah, like the number of times this guy misses a layup or drops the ball out of his hands is just crazy. But I thought he was pretty assertive. He was aggressive. They're going to need him because he's definitely one of the 7 or 8 best players on this team right now. And yeah, I'm interested to see like how the lineups look tomorrow. Like, who would you start? Would you start Kelly Olynyk over Gary Trent Jr. so that you're super big?
No, I would just keep it what we had today, the same lineup.
Really?
Quickly, what do we have? Gary Trent.
You don't think you
Barrett.
get better? You don't think you get better defensively with Kelly Olynyk?
I think we can space out the floor a lot more with Kelly Olynyk, and I think it's better if he comes out off the bench, and also he'll be a good mentor to Jonte Porter.
Yeah, that's interesting. Yeah, I think you need scoring off the bench, right? With Dennis gone, you need like some punch off the bench. I wish Gary could kind of own that role. He hasn't in the past. He's kind of struggled off the bench, so I think that's been kind of tough. But yeah,
a strong bench will also motivate our top 5, right? So like, I think we need a strong bench, like going back to like the Norman Powell, Fred VanVleet days, and we had the bench mob, right? Good teams always had good benches.
Yeah, they can, and I think with the Raptors, like they have some pieces that could pop for them. I think like I've seen like just back to back good games from Grady Dick. I don't think I've seen a bad game from him.
And his defense is improving like every game.
Yeah, absolutely. And this is sort of the prospect that was advertised to us, right? That he's a little bit better as a playmaker and a little bit better as a defender than you look at first glance. And then he comes out initially and he's just foul machine and getting beat to the spot, and he's not getting rebounds. And it takes a while for players to adjust. I think he's adjusting perfectly fine. I think hopefully by the start of next year, he's like a 22-minute, 25-minute per game guy who gives you great minutes. Because
he's understanding his role more now. The more he understands his role, the better he'll get.
Oh yeah, and like that beautiful pass to Scotty Barnes, like over the defense, it's just like like I understand like Cam Whitmore, Keontae George. There's been a lot of Jordan Hawkins. The players picked directly after him are just so far ahead of him right now in terms of the numbers and even some of the eye tests and the big numbers that they put up, like 34 points, 32 points. And if you're like someone who's looking at this draft from the perspective of win the day, you probably feel like the Raptors made the wrong choice. But again, trying to see what this could become with Grady Dick, I still feel like he has a chance to be better than those players. Like a pretty good chance, actually. Like to the point where I would bet that he'd be a better player than Keontae George still. So,
oh, wow. Okay.
Yeah. Anyways, any final thoughts?
I hope they play a good game tomorrow, and even if they win ugly, even if they win by 1, like I don't care as long as they win.
Facts.
Like, and honestly, great show. Like, thanks for everything, and thanks for actually informing me how to call in.
Yeah, my pleasure. I hope that it was beneficial to other people. I've actually like heard from some people on Instagram, and they'll be like, "Oh, I will call in, but I don't know how to call in." I was like, "Damn, we're doing a pretty bad job of letting people know how to call in." But once you know, you always know. So yeah, perfect. Thanks a lot, man.
Take care, man. Cheers.
See ya. Bye. Okay, bring it on, Lane. Lane, what up?
Yo, what's up?
What's going on?
Man, how about that RJ playmaking tonight?
It was great. It was
It was
great.
It was something. It almost makes you wonder, like, how bad mentally was Thibs in this dude's head in New York? I mean, all different players, like, they respond to different kind of coaching differently. So maybe RJ.
That's one way to look at it. You could also say, how good is Darko Rajakovic at teaching players how to become better playmakers? It's literally his job. It's what he does.
Yeah.
Because what he did with Desmond Bain, it's what he's done with Mikal Bridges. It's what he's done with pretty much every wing he's ever developed has become a better playmaker.
Yeah, true. I mean, but like some of the stuff that he's doing is like not something that could be taught in like a month. You know what I mean? Like this is like some of the stuff that he's doing is stuff where it's like it doesn't just take like a month to sit down film sessions. Like this is stuff he's had. He just hasn't been able to show per se.
I can assure you from someone who watched a lot of high school tape of him, he was not a great playmaker.
Oh yeah, high school for sure, college for sure. I think, and then on
So
the
that's the
Knicks, he
thing. So it's
flashed.
like, how is it on Tibbs if he wasn't a great playmaker? You know what I
I think
mean?
he flashed early on, and then kind of when the Knicks started to see success under Brunson, he was just kind of put in a shoebox.
That's fair. Yeah, I saw a little bit of this in his rookie season for sure. You know, he look, playmaking is that simple, right? When you can get past your man, you can create openings, and if you just read and react to those openings, it's great. RJ attacks quick. You know, he's decisive on his drives. He doesn't survey too much. He doesn't think too much. He doesn't, over dribble. He's kind of like one move, boom, go down, right? Sometimes it's going to result in a block because he's not like necessarily an overly explosive athlete, but he's a very sturdy athlete, if that makes sense, right? So he doesn't like get that vertical pop that a guy like maybe Jalen Green, Cam Whitmore, these guys, they get like that big pop on the finish. He doesn't get that finish pop. So that will sometimes always limit him as a finisher. I think at the rim, he's going to have to find like crafty angles to bump guys. It's not to say it's impossible. Kawhi's not a bursty athlete either.
Right.
But he's going to have to find like angles, and he's much better at it than I expected coming in. So he's been good.
Yeah, yeah, for sure. Another thing tonight, I think Noir's minutes were pretty bad tonight, and he's just one of those guys where it's going to be like if he's hot, he's going to get 20 minutes. If he's cold, it's going to be like tonight where he gets 7. But I would have liked to see them pivot to Boucher, especially post trade deadline. So I'm wondering what's going on there.
I think he's just kind of played himself out of the rotation, dude.
I don't think he's played himself out of the rotation at all. I think it's kind of I think there's a different ideology between Boucher and Darko, respectively. Like, not saying one's wrong, one's right, but I mean, you still need his hustle at times. I'm not saying
It's a
play
debate
him.
about basketball. I assure you, I know who's wrong.
Yeah, I'm not saying play the guy 25 minutes a night, but he's good in 10 minutes. 5-minute stretch here, 5-minute stretch there. He's beneficial to your team. He's one of those guys
but whose minutes is he cutting into? Is he cutting to Jonte's minutes?
Well, he might need to start cutting in the Scotty's minutes because dude's tired. He is tired. I would like to see Scotty, maybe get 31, 32 minutes a night coming up because even though he only played 35 tonight, it felt like he played 55. Like, just by looking at him. I mean, the dude's tired. I think I heard you say, and I saw earlier today, where he's literally ran the most in the NBA this whole year, which is insane. And that's not a slight on Scotty by any means. That's just saying, like, the dude's freaking tired. He needs a breather. Put another energy guy in for him. Quickly started the show flashes. I actually think he was much better tonight moving the ball. The assist numbers don't say that. But I really feel like he had a lot of hockey assists tonight. He didn't sit on it like he has been the past week and a half. So give those reps to Quickly, put Boucher in, get an energy guy, give Scotty some rest. But yeah, he's tired. I have no clue why we're virtually playing an 8-man rotation at this point.
So to give you a perspective on just how bad, Boucher has been, this is his worst year of his career since he was a rookie. This is his worst year in Toronto. He's never flashed anything close to this, but it's worth noting that his peak season was there. And the last 2 years have been slowly regressing down, right? So again, like, this is not a player at 31 that you need to be giving minutes to. He's not better than Bruce Brown. He's not better than he's not younger than Jordan Nwora, right? He's not younger than Jonte Porter, and I'm not really sure even right now that he's much better than Jonte Porter. So
I would agree with that. I would just like to see the minutes allocated differently then, I guess, because I mean,
you can't play 11 guys.
No, I'm not saying play 11 guys, but playing 8 at this point is, I mean, when you have a tired Scotty.
They're not playing 8. They're not playing 8.
They've
and I mean, and in
Nwora
fairness,
played 7 minutes.
Yeah, he played 7 because he played like ass, but like and also like I mean also like okay, like I think it's just worth noting like how many players. Okay, you're definitely playing Scotty, right? You're definitely playing Gary. You're definitely playing Jakob. You're definitely playing RJ. You're definitely playing Emmanuel Quickly. You're definitely playing Grady Dick. You're definitely playing Bruce Brown. You're definitely playing Jonte Porter. You're definitely playing.
I don't know if you're definitely playing Jonte Porter when Kelly Olynyk gets in the rotation.
Okay,
that's what's rough for me. That's what's rough for me.
Sure. That's not rough at all. Okay, so 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. And then you obviously add Kelly Olynyk to that. That's 8. And then you add who are we missing here? What the hell? Who am I missing?
Website not updated?
No. Like, of course it's not updated, but like, this is like the full roster of like every single player who's played for them this year.
Okay. Right. I'm not saying going forward give Boucher minutes, but I just felt like tonight was a night where you could play him in 10 minutes and it would be positive outcome.
But how do you know that? See, the problem is like he's a very high variance role player. It's just like Jalen McDaniels. Those two are basically unplayable for me in a lot of ways because like they're too high variance for me that they can swing a game by 10 points in 4 minutes, good or bad.
I just think that you need,
and I just don't think like you need players who swing the game that much.
So I 100% agree with you. And here's my take on Boucher is like in 10 minutes, he's solid. You play him any more than 10 minutes, it's diminishing marginal returns every minute he plays outside of 10 minutes.
Let's test this as a hypothesis. So let's see if he's really good in 10 minutes, if he's really bad outside of 10 minutes, by sorting every single game he's played this year by box plus minus. Okay. So his best game, he played 16 minutes. So let's see. Here are all his positive games. Okay. So to put this in perspective, here are the minutes that he's played in all his above average, like above box plus minus 0.0. 13 minutes, 14 minutes, 12 minutes, 19 minutes, 10 minutes and 21 seconds, 16 minutes, 7 minutes and 27 seconds, 12 minutes, 20 minutes, 13 minutes, 17 minutes, 13 minutes, 12 minutes, 12 minutes, 16 minutes. So literally not true. Okay. Now let me resort it to his worst and look at the high variance. His best game was plus 30. His worst game is negative 30. Unbelievable. His worst games have been 10 minutes, 10 minutes, 11 minutes, 13 minutes, 16 minutes, 14 minutes, 17 minutes, 11 minutes, 14 minutes, 20 minutes, 11 minutes, 13 minutes, 12 minutes. My point is basically he plays more in his good minutes. Okay. So worth saying. But like this is how a player gets to negative 2.1 box plus minus with super high variance. And his bad games have far outnumbered his good games. Look how bad his bad games have been. Right. And in the games that he has not played, you're 500. 1, 2, 3. Yeah, you're 3-3 in the games he hasn't played. He didn't play the first game of the season, I believe. Hold on, let me just check here.
Right.
I know he didn't play to start the season, and people were like, "Whoa, what?"
Yeah, he did not.
He's in the dark house.
Yeah.
Okay.
So in your opinion, you think the rotation was fine tonight? I mean, I'm not arguing with you. I'm just asking, like, you think it was good tonight?
Hold on. Just want to confirm here. So, yeah. So, do I think the rotation was fine tonight? I would like to see Scotty play a few less minutes, but honestly, like once Kelly Olynyk starts playing, 22, 24 minutes, like there's just no room for Boucher, dude.
Yeah. I agree. I think Kelly's also going to close out games
he should.
at least 50-60% of the time. Depending on, I mean, if Jakob's having a game like he had tonight, there's a case that Kelly shouldn't close it unless he's absolutely on fire from 3. But I mean, yeah, I think Jakob's one of those guys that's going to see minutes decrease. I think Gary's going to see his minutes decrease, especially with Ochai coming on. He kind of does the things that Gary doesn't do. They kind of are yin yang. From what I've kind of like seen, they're kind of yin yang. Like Gary gives you what Ochai doesn't, Ochai gives you what Gary doesn't. So I think they'll kind of be used in that way.
They both give you corner shooting, though.
They do. So, but I think Ochai's
they're actually pretty redundant in my opinion. So like Ochai's a better defender and a better athlete, but he's also a guy who struggles to like get past his man dribble wise. So he's more like. He's like a longer, better defensive, more athletic, less ball skill, refined. They both struggle with passing. They both struggle with dribbling. They're both 6'5". They have a lot in common. They're both good shooters.
Yeah.
I think like with Ochai, it's more catch and shoot stuff. With Gary, it's more self creation stuff. They can play together. I'm just saying like they're not like opposites at all.
I know it's a super lazy comparison, but he reminds me of like first year OG Anunoby. Not saying that's who he is, but like just watching him on the court, he looks like a better put together like movement wise, but like same role, rim running, really good in transition either way.
If he was 6'7", like OG, like we probably would have been talking about a top 5 pick. The gap in the inches is significant. Like he's 6'5", 6'4.5" actually.
Yeah.
So yeah, I see where you're coming at.
It's
that
lazy.
from.
It's very lazy.
Yeah, I mean he's got some interesting shot blocking for his position. I really like guards who can block shots. I don't know why that is, but they're very impressive. This is actually a big reason why I really wanted us to grab Jalen Suggs at the deadline last year if he was available.
So you're a big VanVleet fan then, huh?
Big who?
Big Fred VanVleet fan then, huh?
No.
Guards that block shots.
His all of his blocks are steals. These are lies. These are lies.
It's so funny. I saw that video too.
Yeah. Anyway, any final thoughts, man?
Yeah. I just hope we don't have tired legs tomorrow against Cleveland. Because if we do, they will kill us very fast. I just feel like there's going to be a Max Strus 30 bomb incoming, and I'm not looking forward to it. But
I haven't checked. When Devin Mobley supposed to come back? Is he already back?
Yeah, he's back. Him and Darius are both back, but they're both on minute restrictions right now. But that got lifted last game a little bit. I know they both were under 18, and then last game they were both around 25, I believe. So they might be back on schedule now.
That's scary.
Yeah.
Let's see. Mobley has been incredible, basically. The last 4 games, he's been 10, 11 box plus minus.
And he's shooting. Crazy. He's shooting, which is big because living in Ohio, got a bunch of friends that are Cavs fans, and they don't care that he misses the 3-point shots. They care that he takes them, and he's actually been shooting them and making them here in the past week since he got back.
Yeah, he had a game against the Washington Wizards where he shot over 100% true shooting. That's crazy.
His ceiling is so gigantic. I just don't know if he'll reach it. He has the highest ceiling, in my opinion, in the 2021 draft, but I don't know if he'll reach it necessarily.
I think Scotty's ceiling is higher, but I see what you're saying. Yeah. I think I get where you're coming at this from, just pure, how he moves and how big he is and all that stuff. If he becomes into Kevin Garnett, whatever. But yeah, I feel like by third year, if someone's going to become Kevin Garnett, you probably see it to that point. But yeah, he finished top 3 in Defensive Player of the Year voting. That's very valuable. And if he can start shooting the 3, if at worst, he becomes a poor man's Anthony Davis, that's still a very, very good player. Yeah. Anyways, take care, man.
You too. Have a great night, man.
Yeah, you too. Okay. All right, let's go to the post game and listen.
Back from a young team playing so well so many times and a couple of blips, but in the end they played pretty well down the stretch.
That was one of our last timeouts there. I think we had a 9 or 10 point lead with 5-6 minutes to go, and I told guys we just need to learn how to close those games. What it takes, how to execute, how to get that extra rebound that we need. It came down to last couple of possessions that we needed to get a stop. It's going to be really good film for us to watch and then learn. In the second half, they did much more switching 1 through 5, and that slowed down us and the ball movement. We had 15 assists in the first half and only 9 in the second half. That was the main takeaway of the game.
In that last play when Brooks hit the 3 in the far corner, did you think to foul? Were you thinking about fouling, or is it a judgment call on the player's part?
We were thinking fouling, but we did short timeout. We were talking about the 2 seconds at the end. Or shot before that? Shot before that, yes. We were talking about that, like he was just wide open. We were not close enough to foul that. But on the last possession, no, because with 2 seconds on the shot clock, usually players are going to catch being a shooting motion there, and we were trying to avoid fouling on that one.
Yeah, I mean, in the first half, it looked like, as you said, you guys were very cohesive. Bruce Brown, I thought, looked as good as he's looked maybe since he's been here. And then how do you kind of keep that ball movement and cutting going when they're switching so much and sort of stifling you? What's the trick?
So when teams are switching, we had 2 possessions where we scored in the first half. You got to be able to change pace. You got to be able to slip more and to create confusion. And those situations are creating actually open cuts and layups, or somebody's going to be open for a shot. So those are the reads and things that we needed to work on. It happened a couple of times that I called defense tonight, and 4 players are looking at me like we don't know what it is, you know. But overall, I think we did a lot of good stuff. I'm really proud of our effort to prevent them from scoring in the paint. They scored only 38 points, comparing to 84 points in the previous game 7 days ago. So we're doing a much better job of taking pride on the ball, but also shifting and helping each other.
That was probably the best drop defense we've seen played from the team in about a month. How nice is it to have that conservative package to go to from the start of the game to work from out of that?
It is nice. It's great pride that our guys took tonight upon themselves, and everybody they just stepped up. I think in the first half we had 27 deflections, we had 13 steals, we created 21 points off of those steals. So that's something that we're gonna continue to build. Anytime that looked like for us that we have a little bit of fatigue, then we slow down. We missed a couple of layups or wide open shots. We just gotta continue building that stamina on both ends of the floor.
We talked pregame about not having a backup point guard essentially, and now Scotty's going to take more of that role. What do you think of him in that with those bench units without quickly on the court?
I thought that he was doing a good job there. It kind of like overlapped because those moments they started actually switching much more 1 through 5, so that slowed us down a little bit. They were creating some cushion or playing off of him. I think that he needs to be more assertive that when he has open shots to take those shots. But I thought that his playmaking tonight was outstanding, that he was finding his teammates. End of the game, he was making huge winning plays, rebounding the ball. I thought that he played really well. A couple of those situations he had around the rim, could it be a foul or not? I thought that there should be a little bit of respect level there for him to give him a couple more calls. But overall, I think it was a really good game.
You were talking about wanting Emmanuel to get up more threes. I think he got 9 up tonight. Did you like the way he was looking for a shot this evening?
Yes, especially in the first half, he was able to get some out of pick and rolls and in transition, but also his teammates found him. I believe that 2 of those threes in the first half came from Scotty post up and kicked the ball out to him. So yes, we want him to shoot 10 threes a game, and he was able to get 9 tonight, and that's going to continue getting better.
Last couple questions, please. Yeah, that's right. Go ahead.
The pick and roll chemistry between IQ and Yak has been developing very well. Famously in Memphis, you worked with Steven Adams, who incredible screener, great sealer. How much of that do you sort of see in the connection between IQ and Yak?
It's just the start of those guys trying to figure it out together. We had those 2 guys when we were rehabbing in Houston. We had a great workout. They were able to go together for like 45 minutes, and we dissected pick and roll game to the point with those guys, what they need to look for, how we need to set screens, what angles, what they're doing against overs, unders, how to create threes, but also how Yak needs to be able to, when quickly is turning the corner, how Yak needs to get offensive rebounds.
When you look at the switching in the second half, Do you hope that sometimes maybe IQ and Scotty look to initiate two-man actions because of the inherent advantage there?
Yeah, we did it a couple of times. It was just they were quite physical. It prevented some easy rolls there. But every game we're trying to put them in those situations that they can play off of each other and create Scotty on the ball and quickly setting screens, but also vice versa.
Yeah, seems like you and RJ are actually sort of developing some chemistry. What have you made of his playmaking skills since he's come over?
I mean, he's doing a good job. Like, he's a tough finisher, so a lot of times the defense kind of collapses on him. And when they do, he's doing a good job, like finding me for late dump offs and stuff. So yeah, I think he had a couple of assists for me tonight, and even in the last few games.
You were able to limit Sengun tonight a bit more than last week. What did you guys do differently as a team to sort of limit his shot attempts?
I mean, I think we had a focus as a team to take the pain away. So that obviously includes like most of his points as well, but also on drives, like we were just more active as a team, and but we had a different energy in today's game compared to the last one.
As the anchor at the bottom of the defense, how much does the nail help with you? You're being more active in the gaps at the top. How much does that help and affect what you're able to do at the bottom? Obviously, finishing with 6 blocks left.
I mean, obviously it helps a lot because it just discourages drives to begin with. So if we can stop the drive at the nail and have them kick it out and take contested threes, then that's a lot better for us than having them drive downhill where we get into like deeper rotations and it's tougher to keep up with putting everybody else in a little bit of a worse spot. So yeah, if we're successful on the nail with our shifts, that helps a lot.
Yeah, sorry. Obviously, by moments you led by as much as 20, but it ended up being a pretty close game. This is an increasingly young team with all the moves that have been made. How can, as a group, can you learn from a win like this?
I mean, just I guess be more solid at the end of the game. There was a couple of mistakes in there. Also, like when we had the lead and we're dribbling the ball up the court, I think we got to keep our aggressiveness a little bit. It's one thing not to play wild and like try and manage your lead. You want to play smart, but we almost like made it a little bit too easy on them getting stops there at the end of the game. And I think part of it is also us missing a couple of looks that usually go in. So I'm not too worried about it, but especially because we found a way to win.
What are the conversations like in the locker room afterwards? Like, what do you say? What do other veteran presence or Darko say after a win like that?
I mean, it's a good win for us, and it's at the same time it's a learning experience. Like being in a game like that, when it comes down to the wire, like cleaning up those mistakes on defense, cleaning up like even rebounds at the end of the game that kind of like kept them in the game a little bit, getting a little bit better organized, stuff like that. Yeah.
You played against Kelly for a long time. What do you think he's going to bring to the team?
He's a very crafty player. He's good with the ball in his hands. Like he finds his teammates. Like he's good facilitator. Can also stretch the floor out there. So pretty versatile out there on offense. And then yeah, like you said, he's a veteran player. He's very smart the way he reads the game, the way he attacks the game. So I'm sure he can help us out there as well, especially with some of the younger players.
I was asking Darko about your screening ability, just the chemistry between you and IQ, RJ as well. How does your approach change when you're screening for IQ, RJ, even Scotty? Like, is there a different way you approach the screens when it comes to those guys?
I mean, yeah. Like first of all, you're trying to develop chemistry with everybody out there on the court, and especially those guys where we are in a lot of pick and rolls together. And then, yeah, depending on what player is comfortable with what, like how much the defense is going over or under on them, like I got to change my screens, the way, how long I hold them, like there's a lot of different aspects to it. Yeah, just try and read it to the best of my ability.
Yeah, because is it kind of a relief now to have the trade deadline passed, and you don't know these are pretty much who you're going to be working with for the rest of the year, and start working towards that?
I mean, it's good in the sense that like you said, now we know what we got, and we can try and build on this. We know this team's going to stay together. exactly this way, at least until the end of the season. And we kind of obviously it's just like a new wave of young players, and we're trying to build something. So we can look at the rest of the season for us to like get a head start there, like make a push here. Like we're not in a great spot with when it comes to the standings, but might not like try and grow something here, like make a push for a play and like get those experiences, and at the same time like really try and build a new team here, like new chemistry, new everything.
Thanks for watching the Toronto Raptors YouTube channel. Check out our latest video and subscribe for more.
Why does that always come up? It's so annoying. Okay, let's look at the cap sheet. So this is an article by Blake Murphy. I've always really appreciated these articles because personally, I'm not a big cap specialist, and they're always like really, really well broken down. I'm going to put the link in the description just in case. I want to give a shout out to Blake. Dennis Menace, Rob, I'm trying to send a super chat. Very much appreciated. I don't know what country you're trying to send a super chat from, but it seems like most people are able to do it. But yeah, good luck with that. Okay. So in terms of, the cap sheet, this is the cap sheet for the Raptors, basically. And this is a hypothetical what could look like in the offseason. Now, I may not be a capologist, but I am someone who understands numbers pretty well. So that being said, this is kind of the Raptors cap sheet in a nutshell going into the season. There are a couple things to consider, really. One is specifically that Immanuel Quickley has a really, really small cap hold by virtue of the fact that he was the 25th overall pick. This helps. The other thing worth considering is that Kelly Olynyk, who, Bobby Webster was on the show, the Raptors show today, and he talked about the fact that, they want to keep Kelly long term. So Kelly will be extension eligible pretty much now, I believe. You can extend him beyond this year. He has a cap hold of over $18 million. That kind of sucks, right? So you actually have it in your vested interest because his cap hold is larger than what you would technically be signing him to. You would have it in your vested interest to sign him to a deal now or the second free agency happens. And hopefully, he's committed to being here long term. I don't think they make this move without his consent and talking to him. I know these things are sort of like frowned upon, but typically if you're in late stage negotiations, typically teams will give you permission to talk to a player's agent at least, at which point, potentially the Raptors would have talked to Kelly's agent and said, hey, what kind of deal are you looking for next year? What's your next contract looking like? Maybe the Utah Jazz also had that in mind, thinking they didn't want to, pay him his next deal. So maybe it's 3 years, $30 million. Maybe it's 3 years, $33 million. Maybe it's less. Maybe it's 3 years, $24 million. I have no idea. But whatever it is, it will be less, in my opinion, than $18 million a year. At which point you clear up some of that cap hold element of it, right? So this is where the Raptors are right now. But obviously, you're going to have some contracts that are float off your book. Number one, this contract right here, Spencer Dinwiddie, it gets off your book. I believe Christian Koloko, he falls off your books. Amari Moore, he's going to fall off your books. And yeah, you'll have Garrett Temple, Jordan Nwora. What do you want to extend him for, right? He has a pretty minimal cap hold as well. So you can kind of hold, Immanuel Quickley's cap hold at $12 million because he's going to sign for more than $12 million. He's probably going to sign for closer to $24, $25 million a year. What this does is it allows the Raptors to open up some cap space. Now, really the only four variables that are worth thinking about right now in terms of long-term cap sheet flexibility, etc., are what do you do with Jalen McDaniels and Chris Boucher, both of whom are owed about $15 million next year. Could you waive them? No, of course not. You would look to trade them. Or you keep them, and pray for better results next year, but they both become expiring contracts next year. You also have Bruce Brown, and there's that matzo ball of a team option right there. That's $23 million. Now, multiple ways you can go with Bruce Brown. Number one, naturally, you can trade him, right? And you can trade him at the draft deadline, and the deadline of the draft, like when you trade him at the draft, the team that, technically takes him on would be able to do everything that you'd be willing to do, which is basically they can decline the team option, they can re-sign him, or you can test him out for 30 games. And if you like what he's about as a 27-year-old going on 28, and if he's part of your long-term future, you can also do the same thing. What I'm positive is not going to happen. So there's a couple options, in terms of where you can go with this. I'll go with the least likely option. The least likely option is letting him expire and not picking up his team option. That to me seems like the least likely. The second to least likely is picking up that team option and holding him for the duration of that contract. What's most likely to happen is you pick up the team option and then you trade him as a $23 million expiring with Chris Boucher and Jalen McDaniels, or with some picks, and then you take back more money. There's a lot of ways to look at cap space, I think, right? One way to look at cap space is you can offer more money than other teams that are pretty capped out. And there's going to be a lot of teams that are pretty capped out in desirable markets. Teams like the Lakers, the Knicks, typically that are free agent destinations, are not going to be super free agent destinations because they're going to be capped out. They're going to have the mid-level exception to work with. And they're going to have players that they're going to have to re-sign. With the Knicks, they're going to have to re-sign Isaiah Hartenstein. With the Lakers, I believe they have a couple free agents as well. So in terms of that, there aren't a ton of big market teams with a boatload of cap space. There is Philly. They'll have some expirings. They'll be able to fill in somebody, but ultimately the Raptors will have money to play with above the cap. Different ways you can think about it. Obviously, you can clear up max cap space, which is, a possibility that Blake entertains here, where he talks about, what you can do with this. So this is an extreme scenario in which you take everybody back, right? And this is also an extreme scenario, assuming that you keep the San Antonio pick. If you want some incentive in terms of why you maybe don't want that pick, it's a pretty high cap figure for that lottery pick, right? And then you have the entire rigmarole of having to, potentially be bad next year and then giving up a much, much better player, 7th, 8th, 9th overall to the San Antonio Spurs next year. If you're asking me, would I rather convey the 7th pick in this year's draft or the 14th, 13th pick in next year's draft? I would much rather convey the 7th pick in this year's draft. So there's really very, very little incentive to tank. And if you do tank, you probably don't want the 6th pick. You probably want the 1st or 2nd pick. That being said, if you get the 1st or 2nd pick, there goes your cap space. Now, this was the other extreme scenario in which you let everybody just renounce everybody. There's no chance this is going to happen, right? So in terms of things you need to think about, Chris Boucher, $10.8 million, Jalen McDaniels, $4.7 million. These two contracts equaling 15. Can you take back extra years and extra money? So for instance, if there's if there's a team that desperately wants to avoid some sort of luxury tax or whatever, team that's above the apron, are you a team that can send them 2 expirings for maybe 2 players that make $20 million more than those guys, absorb that into your cap space, get better players than those players, take in the extra years, maybe 2 extra years, plus take back a draft pick? An example would be a Harrison Barnes plus Kevin Huerter plus 2 picks for those guys. The Kings get cap relief. They get off those contracts. They maybe get some little bit of flexibility. You get draft picks. The Raptors are being very sensible when it comes to their cap sheet. They're being extremely cautious when it comes to the pending, CBA, et cetera, all the rules and implications. And they're betting on some teams not being as careful, and they're betting on themselves potentially being the only outlet for those teams. There aren't a lot of teams that own their own draft picks. That's just a fact. There's a lot of contenders out there that don't have draft picks, and they have really, really bloated salaries. So, you take into consideration teams like Minnesota, teams like the Clippers, and you look at players like Naz Reid, Terrence Mann. You look at guys like that, and you're like, What if you were to get, I don't know, $15 million of cap space and you were like, hey, we'll give you Jalen McDaniels for Naz Reid? Is that not an effective use of cap space? Hell yes, it is. The Indiana Pacers have done this. The OKC Thunder have done this. Basically, those are two of the smartest front offices between Kevin Pritchard and Sam Presti, two of the smartest front offices. And honestly, I think that Bobby Webster is kind of cut from the same cloth as those guys. He might not be as good as those guys, in my opinion, but he is a lot. He comes from the same mindset, which is money. Thinks money same way. So don't only think of it as, oh, well, you know, they got to make a big run at, you know, Nick Claxton or OG Anunoby. That's certainly one way you can go with it. The other way you can go in it is you can trade 15 million for 40 million if you free up 25 million, right? And then you won't be too far off because you'll be able to then potentially, I don't know. Gary Trent Jr.'s got a pretty big cap hold. I'm kind of curious what they do with him. I don't know. In terms of like the numbers of these four players right here, 1, 2, 3, 4, I could see Nwora potentially getting 10 million across 3 years. Would that be fair value for him just to kind of extract it? Is that an overpay? Do we need to give him 3 years? Maybe we give him 2 years, 6 million, something like that. Kelly Olynyk, I could see 30 over 3. I could definitely see that. I could also see 28 over 3. I could also see 35 over 3. That Chris Boucher contract, 35 over 3. I could see that for him too. Gary Trent Jr. is probably going to come a little bit higher than that because he's 25 years old. I could see him getting, I would like him to be closer to 14 million. Some people think he might be closer to 18, which is kind of where he's at right now. I just don't necessarily think with all the, you know, with Grady, with Nwora, with whatever, that you necessarily need to be giving Gary Trent Jr. $18 million. Just my take on it. I think as Grady's minutes grow, as if Ochai Agbaji, you know, becomes like as good as he is. Hey, Dennis the Menace, you figured out how to send a super chat, which is really nice. And you unfortunately wasted it on Extend Pirtle, which is hilarious because he's already on a 4-year contract. But I appreciate it. Thank you so much for the super chat. That will buy me my coffee tomorrow. So thank you for that. Okay. So here's how I would approach it. I'll just end this live on what I would do. Okay. So here's what I do. What I do, number one, I would trade Chris Boucher and Jalen McDaniels for extra years, basically. I would take back extra years. I would compromise some of the cap flexibility, and I would demand a 2025 draft pick be attached to it. So basically, they're both expiring this offseason. I would take back an extra year and possibly like a serviceable player, like a point guard, a big, like a stretch big, something of that sort, right? So that's the first thing I would do is I would consolidate those two players into one roster spot, probably like a $20 million type of player who has some sort of juice, some sort of potential, who could pop maybe, you know, maybe in the 28 to 30 range. I'm not sure who that is. Is that a Davis Bertans or something like that? I have no idea. But I would take back that extra year. I think Davis Bertans is like expiring next offseason too. So yeah, something of that ilk. Maybe you take Grant Williams or something. I don't know. You take back extra years on a player who's not really working out, right? Hey, that's wow. That's very nice of you. How was Pendance from Coach Mo's Golden Playbook? Pendance has not happened yet. So I appreciate you asking. It's also one word, Pendance. Appreciate you. Wow, $70 super chat is no joke. Thank you so much. That's very nice of you. You could literally buy yourself half of a Pendance pass with that. Thank you so much. Yeah, Pendance hasn't happened yet. It's happening 22nd to 25th. Yeah. Okay. But thank you for first of all, like Coach Mo's Golden Playbook, which is really cool because I always thought you were a troll account, just parodying Coach Mo, who's one of our freaking callers. But here we find out you're like real human being. That's really cool. Thank you so much. Okay, so here's what I would do. So that's the first thing I would do. Number one, I would consolidate that cap flexibility that you have and take on somebody else's problem and take back 2025 draft picks for it. Then number two, I would let Bruce Brown expire if I don't get the offer at the draft that I'm looking for. Basically, the problem with him at the draft is he's still like on the hook for $22 million. And maybe there's a team out there that wants to give you like $40 million back and some picks or something like that. Like right now, I'm not kidding. Like you can get Zach LaVine for him, no problem. Probably. Like they probably want to get off that contract so bad. You probably get a Bradley Beal or something like that, right? So at that point, like you gotta ask yourself, who's the player that's available? You know, you want a Robert Williams and a Malcolm Brogdon package. Maybe that's what Bruce Brown gets you, right? So if I don't get what I want for him, I would probably explore letting the team option expire and just trying to bring him back on a reasonable deal that's a little bit more in line with what he's actually worth. Again, this feels like the Raptor-y thing to do. I'm pretty sure I would try to trade him at all costs, but nevertheless, Emmanuel Quickley, I would let the cap hold sit at $12 million while I explore my other options, but naturally, I want Emmanuel Quickley back. I would try to lock him up for 4 or 5 years. I trust his work ethic. Obviously, 4 or 5 year contracts are risky, dangerous in the NBA because, guy can get injured, guys can fall off, etc. But I'll trust him. He hasn't had, touch wood, any scary injury history that would give me pause. And he's a really hard worker. And I don't think he's motivated by money. I'm not saying like I know him or anything like that, or it's just a good feeling that I have about him as being a guy who's going to earn his contract. So I would probably look at 4 years, 100 million, 104, something like that. 4 years, 104. That's pretty much the contract that Fred VanVleet declined, right, initially. So yeah, 4 years, 104. I think that's fair. Gary Trent Jr., I'm inclined to say if he doesn't come in for under 15 million, I'm probably inclined to let him walk. It's unfortunate. It would suck, but yeah. Jordan Nwora, I might let him walk too, to be honest. Like, I don't know what he would come back for, but I'm not going over $3 to $4 million for him. Kelly Olynyk, I would bring back at all costs. He would be like immediate first thing. I might even be extending him right now at 3 years, 30, just so I get that I got that decision off my table. I trust him. I think he's a solid guy. I would really like for him to have that Serge Ibaka type of thing where he spends a solid 3, 4, 5 years here. I think he can be a really big part of what goes right for the next iteration of the Raptors. What does that really leave you with, though? Right? Well, it kind of depends. Did you trade Chris Boucher and, Jalen McDaniels for extra salary? Well, then it doesn't really leave you any cap space, in which case you probably bring back Gary Trent on a 3-year deal anyway, just to have the asset. But if you do manage to trade Chris Boucher and Jalen McDaniels for the same salary coming back, so let's say you trade 15 for 15, and then you get like extra years, well, then your cap hit is the same. Cap space is still open. I think at that point you can look at players like Isaiah Hartenstein and just start thinking about it. Now, obviously, you have Jakob, you have Kelly Olynyk. What are we doing here? Isaiah Hartenstein, Nick Claxton, these are centers, right? These are not guys who are power forwards necessarily, not guys who are small forwards. So what is the big need on this roster? I think the big need on this roster is going to be pretty much cemented as we go forward. I think it'll depend a lot on how much juice Kelly has, right? Can he be a 25-minute per game guy? Because if he can play 25 minutes and Jakob can play 25 minutes, you got 50 minutes at the center spot, basically covered. 48 minutes is covered. You don't need centers. You might be able to draft a center with one of those 2 picks you have. Maybe if that Indiana pick continues to get better, you draft a Slavic center who's 7'2". He could be really interesting. So yeah, I'm just going to take a look at 2024 NBA free agents and just see who is a free agent. There's a spot track, free agent tracker. Let me just pull that up for a sec. Let's just check. Dennis Menace saying we need a shooting guard. We need a starting shooting guard. Okay. So if Emmanuel Quickley is your starting point guard, or point guard adjacent, and RJ is your starting shooting guard, and Scotty's your starting small forward, I think what you really need is a starting power forward, honestly. But sure. Okay. Here are your free agents. No, probably not. Probably not. Probably not. Definitely not. Definitely not. No. Yikes. Right? Markelle Fultz would be a very interesting option. That would be a very interesting option. I'm going to say Jonas Valanciunas is probably a no for me. What you're looking for right now is guys who could be above mid-level exception guys that might fit into what the Raptors are trying to do, right? Now, Malik Monk might be that guy that you give $20 million to. Malik might be it. The Anthony Melton might also be it. I don't necessarily think that we can bring him back, but here you start getting into guys that I'm really interested in. Let me show you some guys that I'm interested in. I am interested in Royce O'Neal, 100%. You might say he's a little bit old. I don't really care. Phoenix is pretty tapped out financially. I'm pretty sure you could sway him away. Grayson Allen has been pretty decent. Malik Monk, I think, might be worth serious investment. If you're giving $18 million or $16 million to Gary Trent, Malik Monk's a much better player than Gary Trent. Fits in really, really well with what you need. Play a game of guys I prefer over Gary Trent Jr. There's a lot of guys I prefer over Gary Trent Jr. I like Gary, but there's a lot of guys I prefer over him. I'm not sure how much cheaper those guys are going to be than him. D'Anthony Melton is another guy that I prefer over Gary Trent Jr. just for his defensive acumen. He's a great defender. You need him. I think D'Anthony Melton would be an ideal, if you plan to go Scotty at the 4, right? A lot of things get compounded because you have these 3 players who have to start for you next year, or in almost all situations will start for you next year, which is RJ, Scotty, and Emmanuel Quickley. So you really don't have a lot of flexibility there. These aren't it's not OG Anunoby where they can play 4 positions. RJ can play 2 positions. Scotty can play 3 positions. Realistically, as a starter, he can play 3 to 4 positions. And Emmanuel Quickley can realistically play 1 or 2 positions. So it's not quite okay, Pascal and Scotty, where they're okay, they can be your 1-2 or they're 4-5. No, it's not like that. So really, you're either looking for a power forward to pair with that trio as a perimeter trio, or you're looking for a dynamic guard as I mentioned earlier, Malik Monk, and putting Scotty at the 4. And then you're playing a little bit smaller because let's be honest, Scotty's 6'8". Some people say he's 6'9". I think he's much closer to 6'8". You're undersized with him at the 4, right? There are 4s out there that are just bigger, stronger, older, etc. I don't see the need to play him at the 4. He's gonna become a stretch 4. Plays, I think he's probably better as a guard, honestly, if his handle can get a little bit further along. And I think you probably need to find a 4. Could that 4 be a defensive juggernaut like the aforementioned OG Anunoby? That might be interesting. Could it be that guy from the Nets? Where the hell is he? Nick Claxton. Where is Nick Claxton? There he is. So could it be Nick Claxton? It won't be Miles Bridges, I'll tell you that. In terms of other players who could be worth looking at, I like Otto still. Mason Plumlee, decent for depth. Mike Muscala, also decent for depth. I think the Pistons will probably keep him. Patrick Beverley, who better to bring in than the guy who's been trolling your team all season? He does have an impact on winning. I don't give a shit what you say. He wins everywhere he goes. Dennis Smith Jr. might be a very interesting 3rd-string point guard for the Raptors to take a look at. I got very excited when I thought the Raptors had traded for him. He's an athlete. He's a very good defender, and I think that he would be interesting. Aaron Holiday, who we just saw tonight, he's also an unrestricted free agent, non-bird unrestricted free agent, and I think that that could be a very interesting option as well. Lonnie Walker, not the biggest fan. Thanasis Antetokounmpo, no. Is there anybody else? Xavier Tillman, who just got traded to Boston. Boston's got some pretty big cap sheets. So Tillman, known to Darko, could he be, somebody that you look at? Yeah, sure. I think what this, given that there are 30 teams that are going to, have at least a mid-level, there's a lot of guys here who will probably be like taking partial mid-level money, right? Miles Bridges probably going back to Charlotte. A lot of these guys will go back to their teams. Their teams hold their bird rights, etc. They know them. They have established relationships. Robert Covington would also be a pretty interesting depth piece if you're looking at a guy like kind of in the biannual. I'm not sure if you get to keep the biannual if you use it. I think like you get to use it once every 2 years, something like that. But yeah, if they have $4 million, I wouldn't mind taking a shot at Rocco. But yeah, Klay Thompson, I don't know. I think he's going back to Golden State. Would you take a flyer on him for the mid-level? I don't know. James Harden's definitely going back to the Clippers. They have way too much parked into it. Pascal's going back to Indiana. Kyle Lowry would be really interesting for a veterans minimum. I think Markelle Fultz would be a guy, but it's like you've already parked yourself into Emmanuel quickly, and I think Markelle is like, honestly, I love Markelle Fultz. Like he might be one of my favorite players in the NBA, so I'm just going to be very, very, very biased if I say what I want to say about him, but I think he's a good player. Tyus Jones, if you need a table-setting backup point guard, I think Tyus Jones would be a guy who might be worth, $12, $14 million to just look at. Yeah, I don't know. So there's some options here in terms of what you want to do with this cap space. I mean, the Raptors have been rumored to be interested in Taylor Horton Tucker. Is that someone you look at? I really think the prize here, really, if I'm looking at it, is Malik Monk, right? It has to be. That's the prize. Let's look at restricted free agents because I think that that's also important. Okay. So in terms of restricted free agents, you have a lot of guys, and honestly, a little bit harder for restricted free agents. Signing them is harder because ultimately the team always has the optionality to match, but a team is not going to the second apron to match some restricted free agents. So especially if you overload them. In terms of guys who could get overloaded and, maybe you take a little bit of a swing on upside from a team that can't really afford to keep them, I'm not interested at all in James Wiseman or Patrick Williams. I think Patrick Williams is kind of overrated. But would you look at a guy like Isaac Okoro? Maybe, Poku, Sadiq Bey. These are some names that come up. Tyrese Maxey is obviously going back on the max to are names that I would really look at. In terms of teams that are kind of capped out, Station Knicks might be worth a flyer. As a third string guard, maybe pull him into your, Ty Washington. I think his career might be kind of over at this point. Kenny Lofton could be a guy that you could look at. Jonte Porter, obviously, if you see something that you like with him coming into, next season. I mean, I think there's a lot of advantages. Blake covers it in the article about, not wanting to convert him away from his two-way contract because, ultimately it's just going to hinder your opportunities to re-sign him next year. So, yeah, Oscar Tshiebwe, the man at the center of all of that controversy regarding Giannis's game ball, Tarkavion Smith. I always struggle with that name. Not really seeing a hell of a lot in the restricted free agent heap. Obviously, Emmanuel quickly being one of the bigger names out there. And I think the Raptors will probably have to worry about a team like the Spurs who have a boatload of cap space, maybe putting, you never want it out there that you're not willing to go past a certain number. And I think with the Knicks, they kind of put it out there that they wanted him back at 18. I think the rumor out there should be that the Raptors will sign Emmanuel quickly to whatever, right? But if he starts to really, really pop, like, what he did tonight, if he pulls together another 10, 15 games of this and the Raptors become very successful, he is a player who can really easily start to play himself into like the $28 million range, at which point you really, really do have to worry because he's probably not worth $28 to $30 million. Initially, when he came here, I was like, he could play himself into that. I was really hyped, but having watched him for like a few games now, like, I mean, more intently, I really don't want to pay Emmanuel Quickly $30 million. I hope the Raptors don't either. So, 25 feels fair. 22 feels like a bargain. 20 feels criminally insane. But yeah, like you don't want a team like the Spurs who are looking at this ass free agent market and just saying, shit, let's just max out Tyrese Maxey. Let's just max out Emmanuel Quickly. Yeah. So anyways, I really wouldn't mind the Raptors like rolling over their cap space to like next year. In terms of player options that are likely to potentially be declined, OG Anunoby obviously would decline his option. He could become a free agent. Jalen Smith is another option of a guy who will definitely decline. He's playing really well. The Raptors didn't trade for him, but he has a player option of 5.4. He'll become a free agent. You have Josh Okogie at $3 million. He's out-earned that by far. Out-earned that. Cam Reddish is probably going to decline that player option as well. Drew Holiday, would he decline his player option? I don't know. I think if he's declining his player option, he's probably going right back, right? And in terms of team options that are potentially or likely to be declined, Bruce Brown, we shall see. Lonzo Ball, that is going to become a free agent probably. I'm assuming he'd become a free agent. Yvonne Fournier, no interest. The Memphis Grizzlies probably decline Luke Kennard's. $15 million, is he worth it? I don't know. Mo Wagner would be a very interesting player if you hadn't just traded for who you just traded for. Isaiah Joe, he has a $2.2 million option. There's no way in hell that they're going to decline that. So, yeah, overall, not the greatest free agent class, but it could be a really interesting trade market. So, I am looking for Nathan Taylor saying I would take a chance on Lonzo, no question. I love Lonzo Ball. Really, really like him. I like him a lot better than LaMelo. And that's saying a lot because LaMelo was an all-star. I think Lonzo's great. I like players who play defense. I like players who are smart. But yeah, the injuries are scary. Joe Ingles is another guy who definitely could be worth a look. Kind of fits into what the Raptors do. Would the Magic pick up his option? I think that's worth saying. Sam Hauser, they're definitely picking up that option. He's so much better than 2.1 million. You really look around this team and geez, I think he just signed with the Lakers. I got a text about that. So yeah, we just helped the Lakers. Great. Anyways, I just want to say thank you to everyone who tuned in. You have surely made us the most watched Raptors post-game show on the interwebs, and I appreciate you for that. That's super cool. Sometimes I'll look at the Toronto Raptors show while this show is on, and we'll see like 500 people here, and we'll see 260 people over there. I'm a competitor. It matters. I care. I care about these little things. So thank you very much for doing that. Certainly this channel would be nothing without you guys, without the callers. Thank you to the people who called in. Thank you to Lane. Thank you to everybody who called in today. Appreciate it as always. And yeah, thank you guys for dealing with all my relentless Penance propaganda and promotion. Obviously, this festival means a hell of a lot to me. And yeah, I will say it again. If anyone out there is struggling financially, you can't afford it. I know times are tough for some people. You just hit me up via email, or you just let me know, write a comment in this post with your email, whatever. I don't know. Like, I think my email is pretty accessible. It's pensarifilms@gmail.com. If you cannot afford something, you let me know and I'll get you some tickets. Come take your lady or your boyfriend or your girlfriend or whatever to the cinema. It's downtown Toronto. It's at College Subway Station. It's super close by to everything. So yeah. Thanks. Another Pokemon Live. Thanks. And I took it personal. Bro, I did take it personal. I took it so personal. Yeah, I will share with you something that's going to come down the pipeline at some point. Some good stuff's coming up for this channel for sure. Namely, think the quality of these lives needs to get way, way better, and it will. Don't you worry, it will. Like I've had a kind of like March cutoff for that. Sorry, February, March. Yeah, March. So sorry, I've lost track of what month we're in. We're in February. Penance happens February 22nd to 25th, and I take 5 days to decompress my brain. Wait, 4 days? This is January. I think this is one of those Februarys with 29 days. Okay, so I take the 5 days to decompress my brain, and then there's some good things coming down the pipeline. Meetings as early as next week about that. There will be a really cool interview at some point, which is going to be really cool for people who are fans of the EuroLeague basketball. That's going to be cool. I've been connecting with a lot of people from my old life, finally letting them know, hey, by the way, you remember me? Like the guy who was asking you questions about basketball and, taking down your interviews and stuff like that. I run a basketball channel now. It's finally grown to a point where it's worth your time. You want to come on, you want to talk, etc. So hopefully we'll have some pro scouts or something like that coming up. We can discuss the game a little bit deeper. Obviously, like I'm a happy person right now. There's nobody on this team that I don't like. And that hasn't happened for a really long time. That's been like 4 years straight, where there's always been some sort of pesky presence on the team that I just didn't want on the team. And it's really important to me that, this team establish good habits. And yeah, like obviously, like my reputation is taking a bit of a hit. Like I think across Raptors land as the guy who hates Fred or hates this guy or hates that guy or whatever, hates Dennis. I'm just honestly like, I'm just happy that those guys are off the team. I'm happy those guys are off the team. And, I say this with Penance too. I say this with my films as well. What good is success if you can't celebrate it with the right people, right? A championship for a team where you don't like 3 of the players just feels like it just sucks. I don't know. But a championship where you genuinely support the style of play, you support the players all the way through. I'm not an easy person to convince to support. I'm not just one of those people who's just like, okay, you wear a Raptors jersey, I love you. Like I'm not that type of person. I'm more like, you play the brand of basketball that I respect. You wear a Raptors jersey, now I respect you. But the part is, you carry yourself like a good, upstanding citizen. If you do some shit like Miles Bridges, I'm sorry, you lose my support, stuff like that. So yeah, it's really good to root for a team that's playing for each other, playing the right way, trying to do the right things, who hustles as hard as the Raptors did tonight. Yeah, this is a great win for the Raptors. Kind of sucky down the stretch, puts a little bit of a sour taste in my mouth of like, shoot, this is a team that has some growing pains. I fully expect them to get whooped tomorrow, but I hope that they don't. I hope they don't. I hope they come out, they surprise everybody. They're not expected to win tomorrow. Don't overreact to get beat by 20, 30 points. The Cleveland Cavaliers are a very good team. However, you better believe we're going to overreact like crazy if they do win that game tomorrow, because that'd be great. So I'm rooting for the Raptors to win. I'm not rooting for the tank. And if you refresh my takes, I think it was around 2.5 weeks ago where I said the Raptors refused to tank. And then they proceeded to look like they were tanking for the next 2.5 weeks, and I looked like an idiot. This is not a team that wants to tank. So great. And very, very, very big thank you to this and also this. Super chats help, make this channel more profitable. It helps. Everything helps. So thank you so much for that. And yeah, I'll talk to you guys later. And again, one last thing. If you do not live in the city, if you aren't going to be around for Pendants, whatever, talk to a person in your life who loves cinema. It's a good festival, I promise. When's the last time we won 3 in a row? We haven't won 3 in a row all year, my dude. So we're talking last year for sure. Yeah. All right. Take care, guys. Maybe make it 3 in a row tomorrow. Don't jinx it, but yes. Yeah. Huh? Are you like really, really far back? Suggs is better than White. He is not better than Derek White, but he is better than people think he is. Suggs is the guard version of Brooks. No, he's not. I can't stand Dylan Brooks. I actually like Jalen Suggs. Yeah. All right. Take care, guys. See ya.